Hello, I'm Miss Marvel, and welcome to my March reading recap. Jumping right in with Miss Marvel, Volume 3, Crushed, by G. Willow Wilson, Takashi Miyazawa, and Elmo Bondoc. I gave 3 out of 5. I do enjoy this series a lot, but this volume bummed me out. First, I'd like to make note of her hero name. Why is this teenage, never had a relationship girl called Ms. Marvel when Ms. is for divorced women? Shouldn't she be Miss Marvel? Who edits the characters' names? Please explain this to me. Our cameo in this issue is Loki, who shows up at her school's Valentine's Day dance. Then she meets a fellow Pakistani and bonds so well with him only to find out that he's evil. And her best friend Bruno, who's in love with her, comes to save her. There's a quote in this that I really enjoyed that goes, "Friendship is not a zone, you idiot. Friendship is something real and good, and anybody who doesn't understand that needs a dictionary." People put such a huge cloud over friendship these days, and it really bums me out. Friendship should be something people strive for, but without sex, people just aren't interested anymore, and it's really sad. Something I really didn't like in this volume was someone, I forget who, Kamala's brother or cousin or something, is speaking horribly to Bruno. They tell him that even though the family likes him, he can never be with Kamala because she's Pakistani and Muslims, and our kids deserve that too. And he's selfish to think of robbing that from her. There are so many things wrong with that. Bruno seems like a really loving friend. He appreciates the friendship. He's also an immigrant, just from a different country. He never said their kids couldn't be Muslim or be rooted in their Pakistani culture. The rude guy is just so obsessed with pure bloodlines, it seems. You know who that sounds like? Hitler. Voldemort. Horrible people. I still like the volume overall, though, and I would recommend. Number 2, The Nightmare Before Christmas, The Battle for the Pumpkin King. I gave 3 out of 5. This is a graphic novel that tells the story of Oogie's evil origin. He and Jack were best friends until there was an opportunity for someone to become the new Pumpkin King. Both of them were elected, and Oogie had very poor sportsmanship. Jack won in the end, which cemented Oogie's evilness. I like this, but it's definitely aimed at elementary school-age children, early elementary even, but for a fan of the movie, it is a fun read. Number 3, Oddballs by James Rallison and Ethan Banville. I gave 3 out of 5. The creator of the Odd Ones Out YouTube channel made this graphic novel with his animated guy from his videos. There are 5 stories in this that follow James and his friend Max's shenanigans. I read this as I was also reading the Calvin and the Hobbes books, and they definitely have a lot of similarities. This feels aimed at children, but has Nickelodeon humor. It's okay, though. It's a quick, light read, but not amazing, so I'd give it a soft recommend. Number 4, American Utopia by David Byrne. I gave 2 out of 5. This book seems like a joke. It took me an entire 7 minutes to read it. David jotted down a couple of sentences as another artist drew some scribbles. The art would make for good doodles, but are not worth a book of them. And if I'm buying a David Byrne book, I'd at least hope he's the one doodling, but nope, not here. I do not recommend. Number 5, If You Would Have Told Me by John Stamos. I gave 2 out of 5. I need to stop reading autobiographies of creepy men actors. This is John Stamos's. He explains how as a teen he wanted to be famous and was insecure about his nose. He was convinced this guy's girlfriend wanted him and wanted to become hot and famous to upset the guy. He seemed very attention hungry. He initially hated Full House, thought he was joining an adult, male-focused sitcom, and then had to run around with a baby with a diaper for hours. He was not a fan of the leading men and even had Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen fired, only to have them rehired when he didn't like the next babies either. Later in life, he hated being known as Uncle Jesse until James Earl Jones made a comment on being known for Darth Vader, after which he started to embrace it. The hunger for attention is off-putting, but what I really hated is how he talked about women. He talks about them as baby-making vessels, and his dating history is full of women 20 or so years younger than him. Once he met his wife, he ignored that she was engaged, kept pushing and pushing. Eventually, after her divorce, he swooped in, and within months, he's like, "Gimme baby," and rushes her. It's weird because he even talks about her reaction, which makes it sound even more like he was pressuring her to pop one out really fast. I just hate when men think they need to go out and live life, be wild and free until they're in their 50s or 60s, and then they're like, oh, now I want a baby. So they go find a woman who's very young and fertile and treat them as a baby machine. They always find extremely young ones and steal their youth and take away their chances to live a free life that they got to. Now they have to spend 20 years raising a child, and then you'll be in diapers, and she'll be stuck with dealing with that until she's also in diapers and alone after you died 20 years ago. It's just so sick to me. So no, I do not recommend this, and I do not like him as a person. I did give this a 2 though, because I was moved by the telling of how he and Bob Saget became friends and then how he lost him. But for the record, Bob's not a great person either. That part did move me, but not enough to make me like this. Number 6, Life and Death, Twilight Reimagined by Stephanie Meyer. I gave 3 out of 5. One day, Stephanie Meyer had this idea of, what if in Twilight, everyone's genders were reversed? And then she wrote this. It's hilarious and actually kind of sad that this makes more sense than the original. For some reason, all of the genders are swapped except for Beau's, aka Bella's, parents. One of the first changes in the book is Beau putting on a Monty Python t-shirt. I'm a boy, I like Monty Python. It's just a silly change and a great introduction to the story. I do think that there's less of a power imbalance to have the female be the older one and the vampire. At least their playing field is slightly more fair. For the most part, his masculinity doesn't get too hurt by her being the strong and dominant one, which is nice. It's also funny to read him as the klutzy one. When it was Bella, it came off as more, tee-hee, I'm so weak and fragile, save me. But here, he's simply just a klutz. For the most part, the story is the same up until the scene in the ballet studio. Beau gets bit, and while he's writhing in agony, Edith, aka Edward, asks him if he wants to die or turn into a vampire. I love how the option of sucking out the venom isn't even there. Like, Stephanie finally realized that that was stupid and unnecessary and seemed to only be done so she could write more books in the series. I love how Beau is suffering and Edith is just like, excuse me, may I please have your consent? It's nice, but it's also funny to me. He chooses to turn, and once he's a vampire, he's startled by the sight of himself for 6 months. They hold a fake funeral to make everyone think he's dead, which I think is dumb and unnecessary. So I guess Stephanie didn't fully learn, but okay. The Wolf Clan goes to the Cullens, meets vampire Beau, and accepts that the Cullens will move in a year as to not look suspicious. I don't fully remember the details, but I think Beau sees Jules again too, and is madly in love with her or something. That part is confusing, and I didn't take notes in the moment, so I don't fully remember. They just run through the 3 books. What happened minus the human aspect, and that goes to show how unnecessary her staying human after the first one was. Overall, I do like how this one ended a lot more than the original, but it's also so obviously a cash grab and unnecessary. I'm still hoping on Twilight, What If, where she chooses Jacob instead. Give it a few years, we'll probably get it. We already have 3 versions of this, let's round it out to a nice 4. Number 7, The Gods We Can Touch by Aurora. I gave 3.5 out of 5. This is a journal of sorts from the time period when Aurora was writing her album, The Gods We Can Touch. Aurora is from Norway, and English isn't her native language, so I'm really curious why she chose to write this in English. Did she know she would publish this before she started, and that's why she chose English? Or does she think in English now? The book includes lyrics and notes added to the process of writing and what the music videos will be like. Her progress in the album as a whole, and random journal entries that somewhat relate to the subject matters of the songs. For the most part, I did really enjoy this, but 2 or so chapters were a lot about sex, and she states that we all have lust and desires, and this kind of mentality really saddens me. I feel like it invalidates asexuals, but also kind of shoves us out of existence, or tries to. I don't think that was her intent, though. From everything I've seen, she's very inclusive and welcoming of people. She's just also overly sex positive that she seems to have accidentally excluded an entire group of people. I did still enjoy this book. Often books like these I get through in under an hour due to lack of effort, but she was more thorough and added a lot of extra thoughts that gave it a more in-depth feel, which I really appreciated. I definitely recommend if you're a songwriter or like her music. That's all for this month. Read on and carry on. Bye!